The moment she whispered his name in that Paris hotel room, she sealed her fate. And I was the man who made sure of it. I know that sounds cold, but let me back up. My wife, Mila, was the kind of woman people looked at and thought, she's unstoppable, charismatic, brilliant on stage, and the face of the company everyone admired. To the outside world, she was a self-made powerhouse. But what they didn't know was that behind every flashy presentation, every groundbreaking project, every deal that made our company millions, there was me, the quiet one, the guy who wrote every line of code, built every strategy, handled every negotiation she later took credit for. I was the brain, and she was the face. And honestly, I was fine with that, until I learned what she was really doing behind my back. If you enjoy stories about betrayal, revenge, and the sweet taste of karma, make sure to subscribe right now, because you won't want to miss what comes next. It all started with a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. Mila's sister called me casually one afternoon, chatting about nothing in particular. When she slipped, she asked, "So, how's Mila enjoying Paris?" I froze. Paris? Mila had told me she was in Denmark for a conference. Before I could even ask, there was this awkward silence, then the quick click of the call ending. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Now, Mila was careless in her arrogance. She thought I was just the tech guy, the fixer who made servers run, not someone who paid attention to her whereabouts. But she had forgotten one thing. Years ago, when she lost her phone in Dubai, I installed a GPS tracker on all her devices. She never questioned it again. That tiny oversight became my weapon. I checked the tracker that night. Sure enough, she wasn't in Denmark. She was in Paris. Not just Paris, but in a luxury hotel suite booked for two. And then came the real punch to the gut. Photos synced to our shared iCloud account. She must have forgotten about it, or just didn't care. There she was, on a balcony overlooking the Eiffel Tower, kissing a man I didn't recognize. A man with a thick beard, dressed like one of those wannabe venture capitalists who always pitch empty promises and expensive wine. That I wish I could say I felt only anger. But no, it was deeper than that. My stomach dropped. My hands shook. For 10 years, I'd given her everything. My time, my skills, my loyalty. And in return, she gave me betrayal dressed up as romance in Paris. And here's the kicker. She didn't even bother to hide it. You know what kind of rage that creates? The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that doesn't beg for answers. It just gets quiet. Calculated. Dangerous. Mila thought I was no one. Just her silent partner in the shadows. But she forgot one critical detail. The shadows are where the most dangerous moves are made. While she was sipping champagne with her investor under the Parisian sky, I was already moving chess pieces she didn't even know existed. You see, on paper the company was registered under both our names. But the contracts, the banking, the infrastructure, the real skeleton of the business, were all tied to me. Every login, every key account, every client relationship, they were loyal to the guy who solved their problems, not the woman who smiled for cameras. And as I stared at those photos of her laughing in Paris, I realized something. She had no idea how fragile her empire really was. She thought I was the server guy? Fine. Let the server guy pull the plug. That night, as she enjoyed her little getaway, I opened my laptop and began outlining what I would later call Operation Ghost CEO. It wasn't just revenge, it was extraction. A quiet, surgical removal of her from the very company she thought she ruled. Mila wanted a double life. So I gave her a double surprise. The love affair of her dreams, and the professional downfall of her nightmares. And the best part? She wouldn't even see it coming. People used to tell me I was lucky to have Mila. And back then, I believed it. She had the kind of energy that could light up any room. Confident, magnetic, the kind of woman people wanted to follow. If she said, "We're building the next big thing," investors listened. Clients leaned in. She was the voice, the smile, the person everyone remembered. And me? I was the guy sitting in the back, tapping away on a laptop, putting her words into action. I didn't mind. In fact, in the beginning, I loved it. We were a team, the face and the brain. She'd dazzle them with her charm, and I'd stay up all night coding the product that made her promises real. That we started the company. In our tiny apartment, living off instant noodles and cheap coffee. I remember nights when she'd be practicing her pitches in front of the mirror while I was fixing bugs at 3 a.m. She'd turn to me and say, "Babe, when this takes off, we're going to be unstoppable." And I believed her. Every word. I wasn't just building a business. I was building our future. The first breakthrough came when I landed us our first big client. Not Mila, me. I cold emailed. I debugged their system. I stayed awake for 72 hours straight to make sure everything worked. Mila came with me to the meeting, and I let her present the results. She crushed it, of course. And from that moment on, the client only remembered her. That was the start of a pattern I didn't notice back then. She was the face, and I stayed in the shadows. But slowly, the shadows started to feel colder as the years went on. The company grew. We moved from that dingy apartment into a real office. We hired employees, most of them through my connections, people who trusted me. But Mila? She became obsessed with image. Photo shoots, keynote speeches, Founder of the Year awards. She loved the spotlight, and honestly, she deserved it. But with every award she held, I felt a little piece of myself vanish. Because none of them knew the truth. Behind closed doors, it wasn't glamorous. She'd hand me a glass of wine, kiss me on the cheek, and then drop a bomb. "We need a new prototype by Monday." I already promised the investors. That gave me what? 2 days? No sleep? But I always delivered. Because I thought we were in this together. The first crack in the glass came about 5 years in. We were at an industry event, and a journalist asked her, "What's the secret to your success?" And she laughed. She said, "Hard work, vision, and never letting anyone slow me down." Not a word about me. Not a single mention. I remember standing there, holding her coat like some assistant, while she smiled for cameras. It stung. But I told myself, it doesn't matter. We're building this together. As long as the company succeeds, we both succeed. That was my mistake. I underestimated her hunger, not just for success, but for recognition. And slowly, she started treating me less like a partner and more like a tool. A resource she could use that I'd ask her simple things, like, "Hey, should we take a weekend off? Just us." She'd roll her eyes and say, "We don't have time for that. Do you want to be average forever?" I laughed it off at first, but inside, I started realizing, maybe she didn't see me as her equal anymore. Maybe she never did. The arrogance grew with the company. By year 7, she was on magazine covers. Meanwhile, I was the unknown co-founder. Some articles didn't even mention me at all. And whenever I confronted her, she brushed it off. "Why do you care? You hate the spotlight anyway. Let me be the face." She was right. I did hate the spotlight. But that wasn't the point. The point was, I wasn't just some guy in the back room fixing servers. I was the reason any of it existed. Without me, there was no product, no clients, no empire. She knew it, but she didn't respect it. Looking back now, I realized the signs were all there. The distance, the dismissive comments, the way she'd be glued to her phone during dinners, smiling at texts she wouldn't explain. I told myself she was just stressed, that success changes people. But deep down, a part of me knew it wasn't stress. It was entitlement. Mila thought she was untouchable. And when someone believes they're untouchable, they get sloppy. That sloppiness is exactly why I caught her in Paris. And that sloppiness? That's also why she never saw me coming. The blinking dot on my screen told me everything. Mila wasn't in Denmark. She wasn't at a conference. She was in Paris, tucked away in a 5-star hotel, moving between luxury boutiques, fancy restaurants, and back to the same suite. My chest tightened with every update. I wasn't watching my wife's business trip. I was watching her secret life play out in real time. Knowing where she was wasn't enough. I needed to see it. So I opened our shared iCloud account, something she clearly forgot about. And there it was, a gallery of betrayal. The first photo nearly knocked the breath out of me. Mila on a balcony, the Eiffel Tower glowing behind her, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. But it wasn't me she was leaning into, it was him. Some bearded guy in a suit, his lips brushing her cheek, his hand on her waist like he owned her. That smile she gave him, that used to be mine. The next photo showed them at dinner. Candlelight. A bottle of Dom Perignon. Him leaning in close, whispering in her ear, her eyes closed, laughing softly. I could almost hear the sound of it, the laugh that used to mean she was completely lost in the moment with me. Now it was his. Then came the one that burned itself into my memory forever, a selfie. Her phone held up high, her lips pressed against his, her hair messy, lipstick smeared against his beard. She looked alive, radiant, happier than I'd seen her in years. And not because of me. That was the knife that I didn't smash my laptop. I didn't scream. I sat there and saved every single picture. Because heartbreak alone is weakness. But heartbreak with evidence? That's power. The betrayal didn't end with photos. I dug deeper, and what I found made me sick. Hotel bookings, luxury suite for two, billed to the company card. Receipts, expensive restaurants, designer clothes, all marked as business expenses. Even a calendar event she forgot to hide. Paris Strategy Weekend. What a joke. As if her nights tangled up with some con man named Daniel were part of building our company. Yes, Daniel. That was his name. It took me 5 minutes of research to figure him out. He wasn't some angel investor. He was a parasite. A bottom feeder who drifted from woman to woman, promising them big dreams while draining them dry. A fraud in a nice suit. And Mila, my Mila, had fallen for it. Or maybe she wasn't a victim at all. Maybe she knew exactly what she was doing. For a brief second, I almost picked up the phone. I wanted to call her, to ask her how she could do this to me after everything. To scream, to demand answers. But then it hit me. What would that change? She'd lie. She'd cry. She'd twist it into being my fault somehow, the way she always did when things got messy. No, confronting her would give her power, so I didn't. Instead, I stared at those photos, those receipts, that smug smile on her face, and something inside me shifted. The pain hardened into resolve, into strategy, because Mila made one critical mistake. She underestimated me. She thought I was just the quiet man in the shadows, the guy who fixed servers and stayed up late while she stole the spotlight. She thought I was weak, but I wasn't weak. I was patient. I was calculating. And I was the only reason her so-called empire existed in the first place. She gave her heart to Daniel in Paris. Fine. She could keep him, because I was about to take everything else. That night, while she was sipping champagne and laughing on some balcony, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, opened my laptop, and started typing. Notes, plans, timelines. Operation Go CEO was no longer just an idea. It was alive. And by the time she came back from Paris, the woman who thought she had it all would be left with nothing. They say revenge is best served cold. But mine? It was going to be clinical, surgical, the kind of operation that doesn't just sting, it rewrites a person's life. That night, after saving every photo, every receipt, every shred of proof, I sat back and thought about the company. To Mila, the company was her stage. To me, it was a machine. And like any machine, if you know which wires to cut, the whole thing collapses. The first step was clients. Our biggest contracts weren't with her, they were with me. Clients didn't care about glossy presentations. They cared about someone who could actually solve their problems. And that was always me. So, I started reaching out quietly. A phone call here, a dinner there. Hey, just giving you a heads up, I'm restructuring some things. Don't worry, your projects will keep running smoothly. I didn't mention Mila. I didn't need to. Within a week, I had verbal commitments from half our biggest accounts. The second step was employees. Our staff respected Mila's charisma, sure, but when servers went down at 3 a.m., who picked up the phone? Me. When clients demanded last-minute changes, who fixed it? Me. Loyalty doesn't come from speeches. It comes from sweat. And I had sweat enough for all of them. So, I started dropping hints. Late-night Slack messages. Quick side conversations. I'm building something new. If you're tired of chasing her ego, come with me. And guess what? They were tired. By the end of the month, I had a quiet list of people ready to jump ship the second I gave the signal. The third step was infrastructure. This was my favorite part. Mila might have been the face, but she never touched the guts of the company. Domains, servers, bank integrations, she wouldn't know where to start. I, on the other hand, had access to everything. Slowly, carefully, I began duplicating systems. Setting up a new company, new domains, new servers, fresh branding. Everything. Mirrored. But this time, every login belonged to me alone. It felt almost fun. Like pulling off the perfect heist. She was sipping champagne in Paris, believing she was untouchable, while I was cracking the vault of her empire from the inside. One night, as I was sketching out the transfer plan, I laughed to myself. Because I realized something. Mila thought She was irreplaceable. But in reality, she was the most replaceable part of the machine. There was one more step, though, the legal one. See, Mila thought because the company was co-owned, she was safe. But I knew better. Over the years, I had slipped in little clauses. Adjustments in contracts. Subtle tweaks in bylaws. Things she signed without reading, too busy chasing her next spotlight moment. And those little details? They gave me leverage. For example, one clause stated that technical and infrastructure decisions fall under the Chief Technology Officer's authority. Guess who was CTO? Me. That meant I had full legal control over servers, domains, and client-facing systems. Without me, she couldn't even turn on her company email. Another clause gave me rights to renegotiate contracts independently if certain operational risks appeared. Guess what Paris was? An operational risk. Piece by piece, I was cutting her out without her even realizing it. But here's the thing about revenge, you can't rush it. The real art is patience. I wasn't going to nuke everything overnight. No, I was going to wait. Wait until she was at her most comfortable, her most confident. Then I'd flip the switch. Meanwhile, I played the role of the perfect husband. I texted her, "Hope the conference is going well, love you." She replied with heart emojis. I nearly choked on the irony. While she was sending me hearts from Paris, I was gutting her empire line by line. Operation Go So wasn't just about taking her down. It was about making sure, when the collapse came, there was no recovery, no safety net, no way back. And as I stared at the growing list of clients, employees, and systems now tied to my name, I knew one thing for certain. When the day came, she'd lose everything in a single night. They say timing is everything. In business, in love, in revenge, it's all about striking at the exact right moment. And for me, timing was the difference between a messy fight and a flawless execution. Why now? I had everything in place. Clients shifting quietly to my side. Employees ready to follow me the second I gave the word. Infrastructure cloned and locked down with my name on it. Legally, technically, strategically, Mila's empire was already mine. All that was missing was the flip of a switch. But here's the thing. You don't flip that switch too early. No, you wait until your target feels safe. Until they're so drunk on their own confidence, they never see it coming. That's when the fall cuts deepest. So I waited, and waiting meant watching. Every night, I checked her social media. She wasn't stupid enough to post Daniel. No, she was careful. Her posts were crafted to look professional, rooftop champagne with captions like #conference life or hard work pays off. Shots of her in designer outfits, city skylines behind her, glowing like a star. To the outside world, she was just a powerful CEO living her dream. Even to me, at first glance, it looked harmless. But I knew the truth. I knew who was standing just outside the frame. That arrogance was her downfall. She thought I wasn't even looking. She thought I was too busy fixing bugs and signing documents to pay attention. She believed she was untouchable. And that's exactly why I let her keep posting. Every smiling picture, every glass of wine, every business update became another nail in her coffin. Meanwhile, I played my role to perfection. I sent her texts like, "Proud of you. Hope the meetings go well." She replied with heart emojis and "miss you." Sweet lies typed on the same hands that were wrapped around another man just hours before. And I smiled reading them. Not because I believed her, but because I knew something she didn't. Her entire empire was already collapsing behind her back. The truth is, it became almost intoxicating. To know she was in Paris, laughing, drinking, living out her fantasy, while I was dismantling her reality brick by brick. Every invoice I rerouted, every contract I reassigned, every password I changed. It was like tightening a rope around her without her noticing, and the signs were already there, if she had cared enough to notice. Certain invoices never reached her inbox. Some employees went silent on her, though they were still reporting to me. The company card she loved swiping for luxury dinners? Quietly maxed out. Half her logins already dead. But she was too distracted, too self-absorbed, to realize the ground beneath her was already gone. Then one evening, she called me from Paris. I could hear the music, the clinking of glasses, the buzz in her voice. She sounded tipsy, ecstatic. "Baby, you wouldn't believe the kind of deals I'm making here," she said. "We're going to be bigger than ever when I get back." I nearly laughed. Deals? The only deal she was making was with Daniel, and that one wasn't written. On paper, bigger than ever. She was flying home to nothing. That was when I knew. The stage was set. I didn't need to rush the finale. I just needed the perfect curtain drop. So I chose my moment. Her last night in Paris. While she was clinking glasses with her investor, wrapped in silk sheets she didn't even pay for, I'd flipped the switch. By the time she boarded the plane, her world would already be burning. And by the time she landed back home, the ashes would belong to me. I closed my laptop that night, every piece in motion, every detail locked. And I whispered to myself, enjoy Paris, Mila. It's the last luxury you'll ever afford. The night had come. Her last night in Paris. I pictured her in that suite. Crystal glasses, silk sheets. Her laughter echoing off the walls while Daniel whispered sweet nothings about the future. And I smiled, because the real future was already decided. At exactly midnight, I opened my laptop. My hand hovered over the keyboard for a moment, not out of hesitation, but savoring it. 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of being invisible, 10 years of watching her shine while I stayed in the shadows. It all came down to this moment. Click. The first thing I did was lock her out of our systems. Email? Disabled. Company portal? Gone. Financial accounts? Frozen. Every login she thought she owned was redirected to me. Within 5 minutes, Mila, the powerhouse CEO, had less access than a new intern. Click. Next, the corporate cards. With a few keystrokes, I disabled them all. The very same card she had been swiping across Paris. Maxed out, drained, and now completely useless. Whatever champagne she ordered next, she was paying for it herself. Click. Her phone lit up on my control panel. Corporate number, tied to the company infrastructure. Another keystroke, and it went dark. No calls, no roaming, no signal. For the first time in years, she was unreachable. Invisible. Just like she had made me feel. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. The switch was flipped. The empire she believed was hers had just collapsed in under 15 minutes. And the best part, she had no idea yet. But that was about to change. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was Mila, calling from the hotel's front desk phone. Her voice was sharp, frantic. What's going on? My card isn't working. I can't get into the company systems. Even my phone's dead. Do you know what's happening? I let the silence hang for a moment, savoring it. Then I said calmly, maybe your new boyfriend can pay the bill. And I hung up. The satisfaction was indescribable. I could picture her standing there, designer dress from last night wrinkled, hair a mess, panic in her eyes as reality finally sank in. For the first time, Mila wasn't the confident CEO. She wasn't the shining star. She was just another person, caught in a trap she never saw coming. And oh, it only got worse for her. I had already contacted the hotel days before, under the guise of security concerns. So, when her card failed, they demanded immediate payment. Parisian hotels don't play games. Daniel tried to step in, fumbling with his wallet, but apparently Mr. Big Investor's funds weren't as impressive as his suits. The hotel staff escorted them both out, bags packed, balance unpaid. From a suite with a view of the Eiffel Tower to the street in less than an hour. That day, she tried to log in again. Emails, portals, bank accounts, locked. She tried calling me from borrowed phones. I let them ring, one after another, before sending each to voicemail. She even texted, please, just tell me what's happening. I didn't reply. Not yet, because this wasn't just about cutting her off. This was about making her feel the ground vanish beneath her feet. About letting her stew in confusion, panic, desperation. I wanted her to look at Daniel, the man she gambled everything for, and realize he had nothing to offer. No money, no company, no future. The queen had been stripped of her crown. And the game was only halfway over. By the next day, the tone of her calls had changed. Gone was the sharp, panicked Mila who demanded answers. What I heard now was something else entirely, desperation. She must have borrowed phones from strangers, because every number that popped up on my screen was different. The first one I ignored. The second two. But the third time, curiosity won. I answered. Her voice cracked before she even got the words out. Please, I don't know what's happening. We were thrown out of the hotel. My cards don't work. I tried to get on a flight, but I can't even pay for the ticket. I don't have anything. I don't know what to do. I stayed silent. Let her words hang in the air. Let her drown in them. Finally, she whispered, tell me it's not you. Please. Tell me you didn't do this." I almost laughed. After everything, after the balcony kisses, the champagne nights, the selfies with Daniel, she still wanted to believe this was just some freak accident. "Of course it's me," I said calmly. "Every card, every account, every password. It was all mine to begin with. You just played dress up as CEO while I ran the empire. And now the mask is gone." Silence. I could hear her breathing, shaky, uneven. "Why?" she finally whispered. "Why are you doing this?" That was the moment I'd been waiting for. The question, the plea, the realization that she was no longer in control. "Why?" I repeated. "Because while you were in Paris with Daniel, I was here taking back everything I built. You thought I was invisible, weak, replaceable. But the truth is, Mila, you were the replaceable one. Not me." She started crying. Not the delicate kind of tears she used to fake at investor dinners. This was raw, messy real. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. I felt free. "Please, I can't survive like this. Just help me, and I'll fix everything. I swear." I let out a quiet laugh. "You can't fix this. There's nothing left for you to fix. The company, the clients, the money, it's all already gone. You lost it the second you chose Paris." She tried to say something else, but I ended the call. Click. And this time, I didn't expect her to call back. Because now she knew. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't bad luck. This was me. The man she thought was invisible. The man she betrayed. The man who just erased her from her own empire. That night, I slept like a king. Because somewhere in Paris, Mila lay awake on a borrowed couch, broken, and finally realizing she had gambled with everything and lost it all. When Mila finally landed back home, she wasn't the woman who had left. Gone was the glamorous CEO with designer bags and champagne confidence. She stepped off that plane looking like a ghost, hair tied back messily, dark circles under her eyes, dragging a suitcase that looked heavier than she was that I didn't go to. The airport. I didn't need to. The employees who had stayed behind made sure to tell me everything. Some of them were there to meet her, out of curiosity more than loyalty. And they described it perfectly. The once untouchable queen of the company, walking through arrivals like a stranger, ignored by the very people who used to chase her for selfies. But the real punch came when she tried to walk into the office. She showed up at the front desk like nothing had happened, chin high, pretending she still owned the place. The receptionist, who had already switched over to my new company, didn't even buzz her in. Mila's ID card didn't work anymore. She scanned it once, twice again. Nothing. The security guard came over, polite but firm. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You don't have access here." She tried to argue, loud at first, then desperate. "This is my company. I'm the CEO," but it was no use. Employees started gathering near the lobby, whispering, recording on their phones. Some laughed quietly. Others just stared. The mighty CEO, locked out of her own building like a stranger that I wasn't there to see it live. But later, one of my managers sent me the security footage. I watched it more times than I'd like to admit. Mila, pounding the glass door with her fist, mascara running, screaming at a building that no longer recognized her. It was poetic, and then the news spread. Fast. Articles popped up online. CEO mysteriously removed from own company. Power couple split. Inside the fall of Mila. Reporters camped outside her apartment, waiting for a statement. But she didn't have one. What could she say? That she got caught cheating and lost everything overnight? No one was going to. By her version, clients cut ties instantly. Investors who once praised her as a visionary now ghosted her calls. Her name, once celebrated on magazine covers, became a cautionary tale. And through it all, she had no idea how much worse it was about to get, because losing access was one thing. Losing money was another. But what I had planned next, that was the true destruction of her legacy. For years, she had stood on stages, taken interviews, smiled for cameras, all while I built the machine behind her. And now, I was going to show the world who had really been pulling the strings. Mila hadn't just lost her company. She had lost her mask. And once the mask was gone, there was nothing left for her to hide behind. The funny thing about power is how quickly people abandon it once they sense weakness. By the time Mila came home, she wasn't a leader anymore. She was a liability. And everyone could smell it. But I wasn't finished. Watching her locked out of the building, crying in front of cameras, wasn't enough. She had spent years building her reputation on my back. Now, I was going to take that reputation and grind it into dust. I started with the clients. Remember those contracts I'd quietly shifted? It was time to make things official. I called a press conference. Not flashy, not dramatic, just a business update for stakeholders. Except this time, I was the one at the podium. The room was packed with journalists, cameras flashing. I walked up calmly, wearing a simple suit, no theatrics. And then I told them the truth. That I explained how the company had always been a two-person team, one in the spotlight, one in the shadows. I told them how the face of the company wasn't the one writing the code, fixing the problems, securing the deals. That was me. I didn't play the victim. I didn't rant. I simply laid out the facts, contract by contract, timeline by timeline. And then, with the final slide, I dropped the bomb. Emails, screenshots, calendar bookings, proof of her Paris strategy weekend with Daniel, billed as company expenses. I didn't need to describe what happened in those hotel rooms. The photos of champagne dinners, the receipts from luxury boutiques, the time-stamped GPS logs. They spoke louder than I ever could. The silence in the room was deafening. Journalists didn't even bother raising their hands. They just stared, recording, scribbling, already drafting the headlines in their heads. That I finished with one line. The truth is simple. Without me, there was never a company. Without trust, there can never be a leader. And without integrity, there is no legacy. And then I walked off stage. By the time I got home, the internet had exploded. Articles everywhere. The real brain behind the empire. CEO exposed in scandalous Paris affair. From visionary to villain, the fall of Mila. Her face, once celebrated, was plastered across headlines for all the wrong reasons. She couldn't even open her social media without drowning in comments calling her a fraud, a liar, a thief. Memes spread like wildfire. The woman who once thrived on attention now couldn't escape it, and every bit of it was toxic. And Daniel? He vanished. Like every parasite, once the host ran dry, he crawled off to find another. Mila was left alone, with nothing but debt, disgrace, and the bitter taste of betrayal. The same taste she had forced down my throat in Paris. That night, my phone buzzed again. A message from her. Just 4 words. You destroyed me. Congratulations. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because this wasn't about destruction. It was about justice. She had gambled everything. Her marriage, her company, her future, thinking I was too weak to fight back. And now, the entire world knew the truth. Mila wasn't the CEO. She never had been. She was just the mask, and I had ripped it off in front of everyone. After the press conference, after the articles, after the storm finally settled, something strange happened. For the first time in years, my phone stopped buzzing. No midnight emails. No emergency calls. No endless demands to fix what she had broken. Silence. And it was beautiful. In that silence, I started to rebuild. Not just the company, but myself. The clients who had followed me stayed loyal. The employees who believed in me worked harder than ever. Without Mila's ego eating up all the oxygen, the business grew smoother, faster, stronger. For the first time, it felt like mine. And it was 100% mine, but it wasn't just about the company. I started going to the gym again, cooking for myself, traveling, this time for real business, not to clean up after her performances. I even reconnected with old friends I hadn't seen in years, people I'd pushed aside while chasing her dream. And every step forward felt lighter because I wasn't carrying her weight anymore. What about Mila? Well, she disappeared from the spotlight as quickly as she had risen. Last I heard, she was crashing on her sister's couch, drowning in debt, blacklisted from every serious investor circle. Daniel? Long gone. No one was answering her calls anymore. The woman who once believed she was untouchable was now invisible, and I didn't hate her for it. Not anymore. Hate is heavy. I left it behind with her. What I felt was something else. Freedom. Looking back, do I regret it? No, not for a second. For years, I let her take everything. Credit, fame, love, and give me nothing but betrayal in return. She thought I'd never fight back. But I did. And when I struck, I made sure she'd never forget it. Now, when I stand in front of my team, I don't feel like the man in the shadows anymore. I feel like the man I was always meant to be. The brain, the builder, the leader. And Mila? She taught me the hardest, Most valuable lesson of all, never let someone else wear your crown. So here I am. Stronger, happier, free. And as for her, well, Paris was her last glass of champagne. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the next one. Smash that like if you loved seeing justice served, and drop a comment below. Did I do the right thing? And tell me, what would you have done in my place?